Hi, my name is Gabriel and this video is another of my Dragon Age 3 predictions video. The first one hit 500 views today. Probably at the moment it is even much more. I am very grateful for that. I have to say that I'm proud because this is an achievement for me. Sorry for not having much footage from the games in this particular video, but the fact is this is the story. I will be talking about story here, and I had to uninstall the games because you know, the space is required. When it comes to this video, in particular, this video will be about the story, so don't expect gameplay informations. This will be only predictions and hints about where the franchise is going. So first of all, there is one particular element that is called the Warden cameo. It was hinted by a guy from Scotland. His name, or rather his nick, is Scottish Warrior 92. I like him because sometimes he has some interesting ideas, but in this particular one I believe he got a little too emotional, or rather too excited, because the Warden cameo is how to say it, it's impossible. Mike at PAX East or PAX West in 2012, said quite clearly and answered that question. Here you have the quote.
Thank you. Thanks.
Alright, now for the question. Hypothetically, of course, in the hypothetical Dragon Age 3, let's say we have a hypothetical cameo from, say, the hero of Ferelden. Hypothetically, would he or she be voice acted, or would he or she just show up and just kind of be there?
Oh, you mean the Warden?
Yes, the Warden.
If the Warden showed up, would the Warden be voice acted?
Yes.
Okay. If we put your Warden in the game, we would have to take into account the fact that technology has changed, the look of the game has changed. We have voiced characters. There are no silent characters in the game. I think ideally we would want to throw that to you as a choice, how you would like that presented. Is that fair?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think that the undercurrent of what Dave's saying, as we all kind of go, whew, is, to be quite frank, we'd have to do that so right.
Yeah.
Because again, it's your character, and that really is something that we want to put as much of that agency on you to own, you know, how they would look and or sound even, as we could. And I think that would be the only way to make that character a cameo. And then really the question is the cameo worth the potential disconnect? I don't know. I think it would really depend on the overall story.
We'd want to do it right, or not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be basically it.
Understandable.
Not have your character showing up sounding like you know, you know, like that would be.
That's right. That's what mine sounds like.
Well, it would be fun for us.
Oh, yeah, all right, well, thank you.
Those happy-go-lucky city elves.
You quite literally understand. Bringing back the Warden, the very one Warden that you would like to see, your Warden, is almost impossible from a design point of view. Even if the code of how he looks like is in your game, even if in the save file that you import, his armor set, his weapons is there, the person is not voiced. And what in case you don't have a save file, like a new player? You have no Warden to import, so he will be replaced by a default Warden, and when he appears, that person, the player, will not really know who is this person, what is this all about. So another thing is that the Warden is not speaking, and all characters in Dragon Age will have a voice from now on, which means that the player avatar, the protagonist, also will be voiced. The only way the Warden can appear is like he's somehow without a dialogue. He's just like a person standing in a distance. Not to mention that the Warden's impact on the world is already finished. The Blight was that particular element. And last very important fact about the Warden is the fact that the Warden can die by sacrificing himself to kill the Archdemon. So if you ask me, the possibility of the fact that Warden will come back almost 0%. People don't understand the fact that we will not play as a new or old Grey Wardens. There is no point for this. We know about the Wardens as an order. We know from Origins everything that that is a mystery for average citizens of Thedas. We know how they are recruited, we know what is their goal, we know what is their motto, we know how they are born through the joining, we know that the Archdemon blood is required, that they die if they kill the Archdemon, etc, etc, etc. So whatever new we will get in a sense of information, there is no point in having any of those. So if you ask me, no Grey Wardens, we know enough as players about them, and this will not give us any new info or insights to the Wardens. There's only one maybe particular possibility, that we will have a Warden as a companion. That means that he will mention facts that the protagonist, our avatar, is not aware of, but we players who played Origins are. That's the only way I can see Wardens really in the next game. Another element is what is referred to as Morrigan's child. This particular one is quite a difficult one, because it pops out time and again. First of all, you have to remember that Morrigan's child is not a canonic element of the storyline. Canonic means that the outcome is necessary, it's obligatory. How to say it? It's a type of situation that has to occur in the storyline. For example, Orlais has to be rescued with the use of secret ashes, because the fact that he lives is an essential element, and that's a canonic element. Giving birth to the child is not a situation that must happen. Another thing is that the child is not extremely important, at least that is how I see it. I doubt that we will play as the child, because the child is not necessary, as I said before, and also the gender of the child is already set, and usually the protagonist you create has to be either male or female, so you decide. And the child gender is set already because Morrigan said it herself. A few years after the Blight, after the final battle at Fort Draken, during the DLC Witch Hunt, if you ask her about the child, she quite literally says that he is not aware of his destiny that lies before him, which quite literally means that you have the quote here.
He is safe and beyond your reach. All you need to know is that the child is an innocent. He knows nothing of the destiny that lies before him. My plan is to leave and prepare the child for what is to come. Such preparation requires time and power. I must have both if I am to be
As she
successful.
says, the boy, because she knows that it is a boy. It doesn't really matter, be it you be the Warden being the father, the Logain, or Alistair being the father, doesn't really matter. What we know is that he is a boy, if he exists, because as I said before, I'm quite certain that he's not an obligatory element of the storyline, and I would really like to make it as clear as possible. The Morrigan's child is not a canonic element of the story.
One day the magic will come back. All of it. Everyone will be just like they were. The shadows will part, and the skies will open wide.
Huh? What's this?
When he rises, everyone will see.
By the ancestors, what's gotten into you, my boy?
Enchantment?
Another element that is quite problematic, I think, is Sandal's prophecy. I don't like these kinds of elements. Sandal was always a bit strange, He was an element that brought to the game something unusual, sort of a mystery. Not to mention that he is always at the side of the main character. Because of that, I will rather see the so-called prophecy as just a typical babbling of a not very mentally developed mind, because as we all know, Sandal is not a perfect mental being, but never mind that. I might be wrong. It might be also possible that the people at BioWare really liked to make him sort of a, small little Easter egg, but I hope there is no such a big plan for the whole universe and for the whole franchise that is already packed into the Sandal's prophecy. When it comes to Sandal himself, I must say I don't support him, and I will even say that I don't support him in the next game, because it is a little boring to see that every main hero, be it in the first game Warden, the second game Hawk, in the third game whoever it'll be, have the same boy as the Enchanter. I'd like to have, for example, a Tranquil Mage to do enchantments for me in the next game. Why it always has to be Sandal? Always him. Enchantments? I would like to see someone new, just because enchantments are an integral part of the game, and they are something really interesting. So, and as we know, he's not the only person who's very good with them, right? What happened to the mage in Awakening? She was not even tranquil, and she was perfect with enchantments. Moving on, we get into the setting, and we know that it will probably be Orlais. If you ask me, it is still too close to Ferelden, but it creates some really nice opportunities. First of all, we will probably have the ability to play as an Orlaisian, which would be a nice change from the Ferelden protagonists, or maybe a noble from Orlais, an elf from Orlais, etc. That would be nice. I also want to see the whole country, not just one particular part of Orlais, but that seems to be covered. When it comes to Orlais, we need, and it is a must-have, the Divine as an important character. It's an absolute must-have that must play a role, a big role in the story, especially with the Templar Order rebelling and the whole chaos in Thedas. What is always good about Orlais is the fact that this country is more or less vast, so there is a possibility for environmental changes among the dungeons, open areas, cities, so on and so on. And after Kirkwall, it is something that the game really needs. Since Orlais is modeled on France, we get a much more hierarchical society. So it is also interesting how this population exists and how it all twists and turns. Not to mention how the player and the player origins or player classes, how they reflect in this. Not to mention that Orlais is also full of color, so there's a good motive for a masquerade quest, some kind of banquets, parties, an Orlaisian party, right? We already had a glimpse of that in the Mark of the Assassin DLC for Dragon Age 2. I checked the Orlais information, and there is also an interesting fact that there is a university in the capital, in Val Royeaux, so that's another perfect place to visit, and a bunch of quests that can be there. It is an element that we would really like to see again. Not to mention that when we come to Orlais, we also come into the game. For those of you who don't know, the game is, Leliana tells that in Origins, the game is the power struggle between the nobility of Orlais. And when I already mentioned Leliana, it is a great moment and a great place for a Leliana cameo. Come on, you know that she is there working for the Divine, so we want to see her again. And one final element that comes with Orlais: Chevalier specialization, please! Please, BioWare, we want a Chevalier specialization. Okay, now something that is extremely important, and I believe it's the key element. I call it the Black City. The Black City is, for those of you who don't know, the element, sort of a structure that is in the center of the Fade. It doesn't matter where you are in the Fade, you can always, from an open area, you can always see the Black City. The Black City is said to be the Golden City before the Tevinter Magisters enter it, and as the chantry says, it was destroyed and corrupted. So it is black because of the sin. Now, the Black City is the biggest mystery in the world at the moment, in my opinion, because it is the mystery behind the taint. In the Legacy DLC, it is revealed that the city was a prison for the taint, or at least that is hinted. You meet in the Legacy a very old Darkspawn, probably one of the oldest Darkspawn that ever walked the world. His name is, I believe it is pronounced something like Cockatrice. He believes he is trapped inside of his own mind during the first Blight, or even the very beginning of the Blight. So more or less he is babbling, he is saying things that don't really make sense. At least they don't make sense for the heroes who meet him, for Hawk and his companions, but it creates an interesting contradiction with the chantry idea of what happened in the Black City. That is also why I believe that this particular one quest, this DLC, should be a part of the game, not the DLC, but never mind that. What we know is that they entered the city and something poisoned the mages from the inside of the city. He says that the city was black before they entered, so there was no light there, and they were promised the light by the old god. Now, we need some clarity with this. If this is true what he says, the very foundation of the chantry is a false statement. So the fate that so many people in Thedas have is somehow wrong, or at least is the fundamental element of that fate is wrong. What can be the outcome of this? I want to see that outcome. This can impact the world on so many levels. Not to mention that one thing that I would like to see from the next game is the ability or a moment that we enter the Black City in the Fade. Can we do this? It is possible, or maybe not. There might be an alternative way to enter the city, or the city can be safe now, because what we know that the Tevinter Magisters used extreme amount of blood, lyrium to enter that city, but you know, that was then. No one really tried again. So there might be also in the city some ways, some information about what is the taint, what happened that the taint was there, how to fight the taint. Maybe that would be an interesting situation. There might be information about what is the Darkspawn, what is the corruption that is now loose in the world. You know, so many great possibilities with Black City, and I would really love some of this to be somehow used in the next game. But I don't really know if that's possible, because as from a developer point of view, to have this kind of mystery is very nice. So I don't know if they are ready to go as deep into the mystery of the Black City to give us any kind of clearance in this particular area.
Be this some dream I wake from? Am I in dwarven lands? Why seem their roads so empty? You! Serve you at the Temple of Dumat? Bring me hence. I must speak with the first acolyte.
Dumat was the first old god to become an archdemon. There haven't been temples to him since ancient Tevinter.
You look human. Are you not citizens of the Empire? Slaves, then, to the dwarves? Why come you here? Whoever you be, you owe fealty to any Magister of Tevinter. On your knees. All of you.
You're a Darkspawn. Dark spawn, ravaging the Deep Road, spreading the blight. Does this ring a bell?
You are what held me. I smell the blood in you. Dumat, Lord, Tell me, what waking dream is this? The light. We sought the golden light. You offered the power of the gods themselves. But it was black, corrupt, darkness, ever since. How long?
The Golden City. The first violation. The Magisters who brought the Blight.
That's ridiculous. There were no magical boogeymen who trespassed in the Maker's City. It's a story. It's Chantry propaganda.
Where do you think Darkspawn came from?
Some creation of the old gods, no doubt.
Dumat, have you forsaken me? I am your faithful servant.
The Darkspawn aren't just some conveniently explicit lesson on the dangers of magic.
This is a Darkspawn, nothing more.
What manner of speech is this? How long have I suffered?
Templar Mage War. The fact that in Dragon Age 2 this war erupts, and it seems it started in Kirkwall and then moved across borders. I think that Mage-Templar War will be the greatest impact at the moment in the world. One main and very interesting element about this war is the fact that, as I said before, it crosses borders, because it's a war not between countries, but war between people and the nature, how they perceive the world and they perceive magic. There is not a single land in Thedas, not a single kingdom, empire, or any political place that it seems not affected. That means there is not a single nation not touched by this great element. And I think that's exactly one of the things that either also Morrigan and Flemeth mentioned, the change. What is the most important thing from a story point of view, from a storytelling point of view, for the Mage-Templar War is the fact that it is a situation that never occurred in BioWare games till now. Finally, the fact that the outcome of the game can and must impact the whole world. So it's one thing that till now, till Mass Effect and Dragon Age series, that was not possible to happen in an RPG that BioWare created, because Dragon Age, as a setting, as an intellectual property, belongs to the writers of the games, people from BioWare. It is easy for them as a team to impact the setting, on a much greater scale in the game that it happened, let's say, with Baldur's Gate, which was a Forgotten Realms title, or Knights of the Old Republic, that was a Star Wars title. So the world can literally end, for example, which means that will be the end of the IP, so I don't really support that, but it can happen, they can do it. You have a quote here about this.
It's an exciting time, because back when we built our own IP, our intellectual property, we built our own world, because we moved away from, Dragon Age, from working in other people's worlds. One of the things we kept saying, that one of the main reasons to do that was that if we wanted to tear down our world, we could do that because it's our world. So it's an exciting time, because I think anybody who played Dragon Age 2 can feel that we're on the verge of doing that, of kicking down our own sandcastle and having you not only witness the beginning of momentous change, but actually seeing that promise fulfilled.
Moving on, shifting alliances that alter the story, and the Mage-Templar War is also a very intriguing element with this, can be also an element that will exclude areas and dialogues and quests, which means new areas will be available, and this is a very interesting part. I think that after The Witcher 2, something like that, something like that is really important in an RPG, and it's something that we really want to see. One thing I hope to see that is that we should have a really nice touch in the story from, for example, Connor Guerin. Connor is the son of Arl Eamon, if you remember him. If I remember correctly, he was supposed to make an appearance in Dragon Age 2. He's not there. So, assuming that in your save file he is alive, it would be an interesting outcome to see him showing inside of the Templar Mage War, for example. Or it would be also interesting because we know that the time moves on, the demon can try to possess him again, etc, etc. I would like to see him in the war. Orlais as the center for the Templar Order and the rebellion, also the center of the Chantry, is an interesting place, and it also connects with the Templar Mage War. So, since it seems Orlais will be an important part of the next game if the game will be announced, and we also know that they are working on it to some degree, Orlais and the Templar Mage War, that's sort of intertwined. Another and final element when it comes to the Mage-Templar War is the Seekers. Seekers are, since they are, I don't know if they're all women, but since now we saw Leliana and Cassandra in the Seekers, so if they are stationed in Orlais, the role of this order will be a very interesting one, and then one that we will really like to see, also connected with the storyline of the Templar Mage War. Okay, this will be a longer one. Companions! This is an intriguing situation. This material is about story, but you know, in BioWare games, or in most of the games, you don't have a story without people you interact with as a player, as a protagonist. So you have to take into account that this particular element is extremely important, and this will be a little longer. Companions. First of all, we know that we will have Seekers, probably. First, it is still potential, it's not anything solid, that Cassandra will be a party member, right? I encourage this kind of companions because, first of all, it seems that she will be a warrior, even despite that. It's hard to say what is her class, but I think it will be rather a warrior, considering the movie that came out with her, considering the fact that she walks and rather with armor. This Dragon Age 2 thing that she had on was more like an armor for me. Also, the concept art they showed at PAX showed a Seeker, which I quite think that's Cassandra. It also looks more or less like a warrior. Cassandra can give you also information about Dragon Age 2 because she, of course, interrogated Varric. So the interrogation gives her insight into Hawke, into the situation of the beginning of this whole conflict, plus the platonic relationship she develops with Hawke, the main character, as a person that she hears about. The big question is, will she be still looking for the champion, or will she move to another assignment? Another mentioned companion is a Grey Warden. I don't know if that's the perfect idea. Grey Wardens, they usually don't... The idea is that the Order is not going to interfere that much into politics. And you know, Mage-Templar War is kind of politician. Well, it's not really that much, but I don't see Grey Warden agenda in this war. I'd like some NPCs to also... Some NPCs that are companions that were companions in the other games. Let's see. So a little rundown. Alistair? No. He's a king, or a warden, or is dead, or is a drunk. Morrigan? No. She is on the other side of the mirror, and her role seems to be much greater than just a companion. Sten, it's a maybe. Leliana, it's a maybe. But the problem with Leliana and some other characters is the fact that they shouldn't be companions, because the same thing that happens between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. When you lose people in Mass Effect 2, they can't be your companions. That means Tali and Garrus. They can't be your companions in Mass Effect 3 because in your save file, in your version of the world, they are dead. Same happens with Leliana, Zevran. The same can happen with Ogryn, but I would really love to see him. The dwarf is a badass and must be somewhere. His cameo will be nice. Sigrun, maybe. Anders. I don't want to see him. He was literally destroyed in Dragon Age 2 as a character. I don't want to see him ever again. But a character who's a mage, for example, that is inspired by Anders' actions. That would be nice. Maybe some other Dragon Age characters as a party members. As I said before, the problem with them is the fact that they can they probably went missing with Hawk. They might be dead. I think only Varric is the only one who we know that he stayed in Kirkwall. Hawk's siblings, that's also problematic because both siblings can be dead. So, and of course the fact is that there are also characters besides the main group of companions who were companions or who are side characters in Origins and Dragon Age 2, and they could become characters who become the party members. I don't really know. There's a lot of places where we can... a lot of possibilities here. My proposition for new companions are... let's say, I would like to see a Tevinter Magister. You know, guy who comes from Tevinter. He would be sort of a opposition to Fenris. Maybe a Parvolan native Qunari. Or a Qunari thief, why not? Another person is Antivan Crow. I would like to see an Antivan Crow, but an active one, not like Zevran. I would like to see a member of the guild, you know, a crow, an assassin who is more or less devoted to not only the killing, but he embraces the philosophy of crows, if they have any. So maybe a guildmaster even. An Orlesian Chevalier, so French accent, right? Let's say maybe a Navaran smuggler and a Dalish hunter. No, don't get me wrong, not a keeper, but pure Dalish hunter. And not literally the one who hates humans, but just a hunter. He would be a rogue, he would be good for more outside areas, not just like a center city person. And that would be companions. Now Flemeth. Flemeth is a very interesting part of the story. I don't have much to say here because she's a mystery to almost anyone, but first I suspect, remember this is only speculation on my part, that she is an abomination, but not in the way we are used to. You know, abominations are mages who were possessed by demons, and I believe she is a human mage who was able to maintain her sanity and her personality. So she has magical and demon powers at her disposal, boosted up with a very long experience of her life. She's probably one of the few creatures living longer than average in Thedas. I believe that her lifespan might be even thousands of years, right? Now the big problem is her motivation and goal. We know nothing about it. We know literally nothing. Morrigan was able to cross her plans a little bit, and in the Witch Hunt DLC she tells that we should be frightened by Flemeth, and there is no explanation why. So the very essence of what Flemeth is and what is about to start in the future games concerning and around Flemeth, I believe it was not started yet, but that's the biggest mystery here. As I said, I have a small hint on what Flemeth is, but I lack any idea of what is her goal, what is the change she's speaking about. And that's probably, I believe, one of the things that in Dragon Age 3, if we have that game any soon, we will have sort of a clarification on that part. Even not if the main storyline, somewhere in the background it should be mentioned. I just hope that it won't be pushed to another DLC like the Legacy for Dragon Age 2. Nearing the end, there are two things left to say. First of all, we have the Qunari. One important element is that the Templar Mage War is a perfect opportunity for the next invasion done by the Qunari. Since we have an open war conflict based on a religion on one side, attitude to magic on the other side, and as I said before, it is a conflict that is not a political one, not between nations, but between various factions and people who are in the world, that's mages researchers and people who oppose this kind of their existence somehow, the Templars, you know, the situation goes much more complicated, and the only natural way to more complicate things is to add Qunari, their philosophy, their religion, the Qun, into this. Not that it is very important. We saw enough information about the Qunari from Dragon Age 2, but still the full potential of this enigmatic somehow and not very highlighted group. We saw quite a lot of them in Dragon Age 2, but it's still not as much as we would like to see. And I think that unless we will move to Qunari-ruled lands, we won't see that much from them. Why Qunari? Because they are a very unique idea to the Thedas itself, and the way they are presented can have a really nice impact on the world. So we would like to see them more. As an interlude, before I conclude, I want to put out one point here about the protagonist of the next game. And I think that for now it is quite okay that we don't know much about the protagonist, because that's literally fine to this point, but sooner or later we will have people at BioWare will have to give us some info about the protagonist. So for now, I think it is important. We don't know nothing, literally nothing, absolutely zero, no info about the protagonist. And before I end, there is also one last, this time really last element that I have to touch. The question, why Dragon Age 3 or the whole of Dragon Age, in my opinion, will not feature Mass Effect 3 ending problem? The answer is quite simple. From the very beginning, the story of Dragon Age IP is more or less set as an evolution and story, the history of Thedas in this particular one moment of its existence, which is Dragon Age as the calendar age. Dragon Age games are about the world, while Mass Effect was a story of Commander Shepard, so a trilogy about one certain individual. Events in Dragon Age will be impacted by the player's choices, but the amount of these choices was never so much important as it was in Mass Effect games. The amount of choices in Dragon Age are allowed to be separated between various protagonists, while in Mass Effect you had one huge gigantic story, the struggle against Reapers, and one major person that was Commander Shepard. And you know, the promise made by the Mass Effect team was much greater than there is in Dragon Age. So the level of impact at the ending is much more different, because in Mass Effect 3 the ending was supposed to be the ending of the whole trilogy, while in Dragon Age every Dragon Age has sort of a conclusion of its own, because each game is a separate product. And that is why I believe Dragon Age 3 or Dragon Age the whole IP will not feature such big problems as Mass Effect 3 ending did. These are mine, personal, and quite, I believe, well, still sort of based on the information we have, prophecies? No, I would rather call them speculations on Dragon Age 3 story. I hope you enjoy it, I hope you agree with some of the points. If not, feel free to comment, feel free to give your own opinion in the section below. As I said before, this IP, Dragon Age, is something of a unique element. Because of this, that in games, as we know, we can make sort of an interactive storytelling, BioWare is doing quite good work working with the IP, with Dragon Age. That is also why I hope we will see the next game announced maybe next year. And, well, there is a big hype over this whole game, because, you know, considering the fact that Dragon Age 2 had its problems and was the reception of the game was, I believe, not as good as they hoped for. You know, it is the third game that we look into. We want to see if they are still able to get to the same level of interactivity, of epicness, of greatness that they did with Origins. If not, then we can, you know, put a rip on this and put Dragon Age to grave. But I think they are ready to announce that to admit that Dragon Age 2 was a mistake in many places. Don't get me wrong, it was not a bad game, it was just not a great game, and from that studio we expect great games, quality value games. So that would be Story. Thank you very much, my name is Gabriel. I highly encourage you to check out the channel, subscribe, and of course discuss, because it's the discussion that creates input, that we as people who play the games can give back the feedback. So once again, thanks for listening. See ya!